Hello everybody, I'm Gary Massa with Massa & Associates here at Pacific Sotheby's International Realty, and I'm here with my main man, Tommy Hinson from Investors 1031 Exchange. And I wanted to bring you some information today about the concept of 1031 Exchange and just kind of get some of the questions answered. So without further ado, Tommy, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Basically, can you tell me a little bit about what a 1031 Exchange is?
Sure. So a 1031 exchange is actually an IRS code, IRC 1031, and it allows an investor who's selling an investment property that has a gain to sell the property, reinvest in another property, and in the process avoid all capital gain taxes.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So who can qualify for a 1031 exchange?
Anyone that's a U.S. taxpayer or entity qualifies. So if you're filing a United States tax return, then you'll qualify for it.
Okay. Now I'm sure that there's got to be some sort of restrictions that apply here, time frames or those sort of things. Can you tell me a little bit about the type of restrictions that you have to operate in between?
Yeah, that's the hardest part of a 1031 exchange is the time frames, because what it states is that the day you close escrow on the property you're selling starts the clock. You have 45 days to determine what you want to reinvest in. And the way you do that, it's called the identification period, but you basically can pick up to 3 properties. You send a form in with the addresses on them. That has to be in before midnight on the 45th day.
Okay.
And then you get an additional 135 days to close on one of the 3 properties you identified the first 45 days.
Could you buy all 3 if you had enough funds,
Yeah,
essentially?
absolutely. And there's certain cases where you're selling one asset or property and you're reinvesting in multiple. So there's different ways to identify. The 3 property rule is the most simple.
Right.
But if you do want to buy multiple properties, there's other ways to identify more than 3 even.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, we were just talking a second ago about the different types of 1031 exchange. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Sure. So the standard exchange, what we call a forward or a delayed exchange, is where you're selling a property and then you have 180 days to reinvest in a new property. The other types of exchanges is the reverse exchange, which we're seeing a lot more of now. People don't like that 45-day window. If they can't find anything in 45 days, it can trigger the tax for all the gain that they've ever had. So what investors are doing now is they can go out and acquire the property they want to buy and then have up to 6 months to sell what they want to sell, pay themselves back or pay off that loan that they used to acquire the property.
Right, and that's got to be really helpful in a market like ours where inventory is tight and it's hard to get those offers accepted right now.
I think that's why it's happening right now. Investors don't want to take the risk on the 45. There's not a lot of inventory out, but it's a great time to sell.
Right.
So let's sell, but let's figure out what we're going to do. Then there's also the build to suit, which states that you can go out, buy a piece of property with the funds that you used to sell, and then you can actually use those funds to upgrade the property.
Oh, nice.
So the problem is you only have 6 months to use it, so it's not ground up type stuff. But if you want to buy a multifamily or buy a single family, put new carpet, paint, that kind of stuff, you can actually use your 1031 funds to increase the value of the property.
Okay, so it's still that 6 months to spend the money essentially after you identified it, but it's got to go all towards that one property.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Now, there's a lot of questions and a lot of misconceptions out there about 1031 exchange. What are the main misconceptions that you hear, or the information that you'd like to pass along to people watching this video right now about 1031?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. The big one is, the time frames. People always think that they can, get an extension on the 45 days. There's no part of the code that allows an extension.
All right.
So that's one of the big ones. Has to be for investment. We get a lot of calls. People want to sell their primary residence and do a 1031. That doesn't qualify. But I think the biggest one is the term like kind, which I can't stand that term in the industry, but because it says that you have to reinvest in like kind property.
Okay.
And so people assume if I'm selling an apartment building, I have to buy an apartment building. But it's not the case. It's anything that's considered real property, which I tell people, if it's attached to the ground, it probably qualifies.
Okay, so somebody essentially could sell a condo or a detached home or something that they're just tired of the tenants, tired of doing all the maintenance, and step up that investment into something like a multifamily, like more of a commercial assets. It's a lot more hands-off, but still getting that income and appreciation that they were used to with the single family.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that.
Really?
Single family, over time, the baby boomers especially have accumulated all this real estate.
Yeah.
They're looking at reinvesting into something else that maybe is a little more passive, a little more hands-off, and so we're seeing a lot of stuff go into more investments like that.
Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds like another opportunity for another video and some more information on those sort of things. Tommy, thanks again for joining me today. I hope you guys got some value out of that. If you have any questions whatsoever on 1031 exchange and how your situation may benefit from this tax opportunity, don't hesitate to call me directly, call Tommy directly, or you can visit his website at 1031 Investors. I'm sorry, 1031?
Investors1031.com.
That's right, I knew I was messing up somehow.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Tommy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you got it.